best boiler, or what's the most important things to consider when you're going to buy a new boiler. I've got lots of boilers in here. As you can see, we've got Wiesmann boilers, we've got Alpha boilers, we've got a Navien boiler, I've got an Ideal, I've also got a Worcester Bosch. But which boiler is ideal for you? First of all, there's no such thing as a best boiler. What's the best boiler for you might not be suitable for somebody else. So it'll depend on your house and what you require. Also, it'll depend on your budget. It may be that your budget is low and you want a cheap, reliable boiler for now. In that case, you might go for something like an Alpha with a good long warranty, but it's a more budget boiler, or a more budget boiler in price anyway. It may be that you've got deeper pockets and you want to do lots of things on your property long term, and you might want to go for a more expensive boiler, something like a Wiesmann maybe. But in my opinion, what's the most important things to consider if you're going to buy a new boiler? Well, I've been a gas engineer now for over 30 years, probably about 33 or 34 years now. I've been doing plumbing and gas, and a few things that I would say to consider. One is, there's a lot of talk now about hydrogen ready boilers. Well, most boilers, or almost all boilers, have been hydrogen blend ready for the last 20 years or so. So if you see some fancy labels on boilers that now say hydrogen ready, what it normally means is it's hydrogen mix ready. And all boilers, as far as I'm aware, have been that for the last 20 years. So that's a little bit of a sales gimmick. Where that might change in the future, maybe in 10 or 15 years time, maybe 20 years time, we may have a boiler that will be able to be adapted to full hydrogen. But that's a long, long way away. So the hydrogen, I would just put that to one side for now. That is, people are using that as a sales process, if you like. Other things to consider: the manufacturer, warranty, and service. Probably service is the main. Sometimes it's better to fit a boiler that you might not feel is as good, but the service from the manufacturer is amazing. Because if you've got a customer with a problem with a boiler, you want them to be able to get somebody to come out and repair it without any issues. So service is probably one of the key things. Going towards the boiler that suits the house the best. Forget about the brand for a minute. Different boilers. So for instance, if I'm going to go fit a boiler in a large property, I might install something like a Wiesmann 111. And the reason I might do that is because it's got a really good hot water delivery. So that customer's going to be happy with that boiler. That boiler's probably, it's definitely not going to be suitable for a 1-bedroom flat because they don't need all that water. So what other things should we consider? Boiler size. In my opinion, you're going to install, or you should install, the smallest boiler that will suit your needs, because that's going to help you with running costs. If you have big massive boilers, then they can come on at really high rates, and they can cycle, go on and off, on and off, on and off. Sometimes you find people fit 40 kilowatt combis. I went to in fact it was a brand new housing estate, and there were some little small houses with really low heat losses, and the water flow coming in wasn't amazing, and they had 40 kilowatt combis in them. Just crazy. So, you know, try and get the smallest boiler that will suit your needs. The next thing to consider is the boiler itself, range rateable, and the low modulation ratio. Now, to me, these are not the end of the world. It's just part of the package. If you can have a boiler that you can range rate down, then it would be better, but it's not the end of the world, because boilers do modulate down. So even if you fit a boiler that's oversized, it will modulate down to the load that you require. And if you've got the right controls on there, if you've got something like an open firm control, depending on the manufacturers, some manufacturers don't use open firm, but if you've got the right controls on it, it'll modulate down to the load of the property anyway. So the range, if you can range rate it, is not as important in my opinion. People will disagree with that, but something that is more important, I would say, is the low range, so the low modulation, what it'll modulate down to. So let's say that your house is 7 or 8 kilowatts, your load of your house. at -3 outside. So that's at the really cold winter days, -3, your house needs 7 or 8 kilowatts. Your boiler might modulate down to, let's say it modulates down to 4 kilowatts. So that means it'll stay around the 8 and it'll just keep your house ticking over, nice, lovely. When it's a bit of a warmer day, but it's still cold outside, you still need your heating on, your load on your house might only be 3 kilowatts or 4 kilowatts. So ideally you want a boiler that'll modulate down to that sort of ratio. It's not the end of the world, but it's just something to consider, because what will happen is, if it's, say, let's say your boiler only modulates down to 7 kilowatts, your boiler will short cycle, so it'll turn on and off. We want to try and avoid that if we can, but as I say, in my opinion, again, it's not the end of the world. It's just part of the package when you're choosing a boiler. So I'm babbling on a little bit now, and which boiler, I hear you shout, which boiler would you choose? Well, as I've said, there's no right and wrong answer. There's no right and wrong boiler. Well, there's definitely wrong boilers, but there's no one boiler that suits everybody. I would probably stick with leading brands, Ideal, Worcester, Alpha, Wiesmann, these type of brands. But put a comment below. What good experiences have you had with manufacturers? What bad experiences have you had? Which boilers would you choose? If you're a gas engineer, put a comment below. What boilers do you recommend to customers? Why do you recommend them boilers? What's good about them? What's bad about them? Do you just fit a blanket boiler or a blanket brand just because you get loyalty points or rewards? Or do you actually look at the customer's property and try and work out what's going to be best and most suitable for that customer? Put some comments below. And if you've got any questions on boiler choices, put some comments below and I'll try my best to answer as many of them questions as I can. As I said, there's lots of different reasons to choose different things with boilers. I hope this video has been a little bit helpful. I've tried to include what I can and try not to make it biased, towards any brands, because most brands has good and bad points with boilers. There's sometimes you can get bad service and good service with brands, so I've tried to just keep it just fair, really. But yeah, put some comments below and let me know what you think.